Hey everybody, welcome back to some more live coding. Today's topic is documentation. I know this is really exciting, but it's something that's near and dear to my heart, and I want to go through this website called Readthedocs.org. It is a very popular tool for hosting documentation. And one thing that it does that is really nice is you can just link up a GitHub account and link a repository, and it will automatically build and host your documentation on their site for you automatically whenever you commit. Not only will it take your plain text documentation and turn it into HTML and PDFs, it'll even track the versions and make each version of your documentation downloadable. So here on their homepage, they tell you what's going on. Free docs hosting, totally free. They've got webhooks that'll hook into your source control, not just GitHub. And they will generate HTML, PDF, single page HTML, and even EPUB for making ebooks. And yeah, you can tag the versions. So it's not just for documentation. I mean, I suppose you could write books and things too, but let's go through it. So basically, they use, or they prefer that you use restructured text. You can use Markdown. I think most people are already familiar with Markdown. It's become pretty prolific, and GitHub supports Markdown. GitHub also supports restructured text. Not everybody knows that, but if you go to github.com, and I usually write my readmes in restructured text. Like you see this one here. This is a readme.rst. It's a restructured text, and if you look at it, it looks a lot like Markdown. So it's very easy to get started. But you'll see here, like an image. An image is a little bit different, but in this case it's a directive. This is how you format a directive. And GitHub understands it. And one thing that it does that's really cool is there's a directive, there's a contents directive. And this one is basically a table of contents. You don't have to give it a title, you can just do it like that. And so, watch, I'm pretty sure that's the name of it. Yeah. So now you can see that it actually created a table of contents with that directive, and it actually automatically links all of the headings. It automatically looks at all of the headings in the doc, and it even links them. So how awesome is that? Totally free. All you have to do is .contents, and boom, auto-linking table of contents. So that's one of the reasons that restructured text is better than Markdown, because you get these directives, and you can add custom directives too. You can create your own directives, and there's a whole bunch that are already in there, like this image and these contents. So right there alone, this is like a huge selling point, and you can convert the restructured text to all the same formats that you can in Markdown. So restructured text is the formatting that's kind of like Markdown but better, much better in my opinion. If you're using Python, you should be using restructured text. And I don't just say that out of opinion here. So it's actually part of the standard in Python. I'm pretty sure restructured text was completely designed by Python community members. And so Docutils is the tooling that actually parses the restructured text and generates HTML or PDF or ebook or whatever else you want. And this is actually the spec for the tooling. And so you can see that you've got the input, the parser, the reader, the transformer, the writer, and you can swap out these different pieces. And so I've written custom writers to where you know, you can say, well, I don't like their HTML one. I prefer my HTML5 one that's custom. And so you can write different writers and swap them in and out. You can write custom directives. And on top of the Docutils, yeah, restructured text, docstring format. So the docstrings in Python code, the quotes that are at the top of the files and at the top of the functions, those are docstrings. Those support restructured text, and so it's very much part of the Python documentation, and the official docs are written in that and everything. So definitely worth learning, and it's not just a Python thing, even though it started there. I use it for all of my projects and all my languages, and GitHub supports it, so I highly suggest looking at that. Anyway, enough about that. So Sphinx. Sphinx is a tool built on top of the Docutils and the restructured text. It basically is it's just a higher level abstraction that lets you build larger document projects. So basically, you can do this. Yeah, you do pip install Sphinx, and then you run Sphinx quick start. And that basically generates a skeleton project for you to get started. And so one thing to mention is that you can use Markdown with Readthedocs. If you really want to use Markdown with Readthedocs, you can, but you're not going to get all the full features that you do in restructured text. So definitely worth taking the time. And if you want to learn more about restructured text, I have a post here on github.com/devdungeon. There's a restructured text documentation reference, and this right now it's just a single page RST file, which means it's just plain text, which means you can write all of your plain text, all of your documentation in plain text in your source code, and it gets rendered to nice HTML and PDFs and things like that. So this gives you a sample. I'm just going to kind of scroll through it real quick so you can see how it looks a lot like Markdown. If you notice, the headings are just the dots and the underlines, and lists are pretty much the same. And then I have a block that has a whole bunch of different syntax examples. On top of, so let me get out of this view and go back to the rendered view. So GitHub automatically is rendering all of this. I just gave it the .rst extension, and GitHub knows, oh, this is restructured text, let me parse it through my restructured text parser and get nice rendered HTML. And that's how I get, you see this nice table of contents with the nested list and all the links so I can jump directly to any section. So that's just the contents directive, all for free. And so I highly recommend, it's a very long and thorough document. I dive pretty much through all of the internals and everything of Docutils and restructured text. So the tools, Docutils, Sphinx, Pandoc, which is kind of a converter between formats, some syntax examples, how to split it up into multiple files, and then how to write custom writers, custom directives, and then maybe some plugins like the Sublime Text plugin. So check that out if you want to learn more about restructured text or the official docs, which are a little there's not a ton of stuff out there. That's why I'm kind of doing this. But read the docs. So let's get going here. So Sphinx is going to let us write some restructured text docs. So I'm going to open up a project that I already have that people have a lot of questions about. It's probably my most active repo, and I've only got this little README page here with some of the documentation also on my web page. And so what I'm going to do is take the information from the README, and I'm going to create some formal documentation with Readthedocs and publish it up there. And I'm going to show you how to do it. So I'm going to basically clone this repository. So I have a local copy. Actually, I'm going to reclone it. I could just redo the remote, but it's so small I'm going to do this. I want the SSH one. Okay, so we're gonna do Sphinx quick start. Right, so I need to pip install Sphinx, and I'm doing that globally. I'm not doing it in a virtual environment right now. And then Sphinx quick start docs. I should be able to give it a directory like that. Okay, so welcome to Sphinx 1.8 quick start. Please enter the values, selected root path, docs. Yes, that's the common one. And I'll show you, like, for example, if you go look at the Django source code on GitHub, then there's a directory called docs. This is kind of the standard. You go into docs, and you're basically going to see that there's an index. You can give the restructured text either .txt or .rst extensions. So if you go to index.txt, you'll actually see that it is a restructured text format. And look, there's a custom directive there called a rubric. I'm not really sure what the rubric is. Then some lists, and so in each folder you've got more. So you've just got pages and pages of restructured text. Now, if you go, they should also have a read the docs page. Or they have their own documentation, rather. And see, they say right here explicitly, all documentation is in the docs directory and online at docs.django project. And this was made with Sphinx too. If you're just getting started, here's how you can read the docs. You can read the instruction, the install docs, the README, and basically there's a make file in there. So in the docs, there is a make file. There's a make.bat, but then there's also a make file. And those get generated automatically by Sphinx so that it builds in Windows and Linux just the same. And we'll go through that in a second, but this is a page built with Sphinx and all that. It's got a custom theme, so it's all Django themed. Now, if you go look at Flask documentation, that's another example of one that was generated with Sphinx. Now, if you go down to the very bottom, I think they left, yeah, there's a boilerplate that says created using Sphinx 174. So this is another example of documentation that's made with Sphinx. It is totally themed differently. As you can see, they've got the sidebar on the left, and they've got their own headings and everything. Django does it on the right. Totally separate themes, but it's all using Sphinx restructured text. Actually, I want to go to Flask on GitHub. And so if we look, there should be a docs folder. Yeah, there's a docs folder, and you can see there should be an index.rst. That's the root. And then there's the make.bat that gets generated automatically with the quick start. So I just wanted to show you that it's being used a lot by the Python community. On top of that, I believe it was the Django creator originally. He said that he wants to leave behind a culture of documentation. That's what he wants to build in Python, is a strong documentation community. And I believe the same thing. I think documentation is really important, so learning all this stuff and being really familiar with all this is really important, because you're going to be documenting every project you do, every module, every function. You write a doc string. You're documenting everything, so there's no reason not to be intimately familiar with all of this stuff. So we're going to dive deeper into it. Okay, so we did the Sphinx quick start. We told it what directory, and it says you have two options for placing the build directories for Sphinx output. Either you use a directory build within the root path, or you separate the source and build directories. Let's go with the default of no. Let's just keep everything in the docs directory. We'll just ignore that subdirectory, which it probably does automatically. Inside the root directory, two more directories will be created. Templates for custom HTML templates, and static for custom style sheets and other static files like images. Great, because it's basically creating the HTML stuff for us. You can enter another prefix, such as dot, to replace the underscore. No, that's fine, I'm going with that. The project name will occur in several places in the built documentation. We're just going to call it the Kathy Chatbot. Chatty Kathy Chatbot. I hope there's no trademark problems there. Project release? Ooh. What project release are we on? Is that the... I guess that might be just the documentation version. Let's see, in my setup.py I've got the version, and I'm going to roll this. So it's going to be 1.1.1 as after I roll it. If the documents are to be written in a language other than English, let's just go with en. Source file suffix, I prefer the rst over the txt. One document is special in that it is considered the top node of the contents tree. That is, this is the root of the hierarchical structure. Normally this is index, but if your index document is a custom template, you may also set this to another. We'll go with index. That's the default, that's what people expect. Docs/index. Indicate which of the following Sphinx extensions you should enable. Autodoc? Oh yeah, that's a really cool one. You can have it automatically insert doc strings from your modules. So it'll automatically go through and document all of your classes and all of your methods with the doc strings that you hopefully already put in restructured text format. I'm going to go with no because I don't want to do that here. Doc test. Oh, doc test is another really cool one. So doc test, this is more Sphinx generated documentation, I'm almost positive. But this is the official Python docs. So doc test, so this is a doc string. This is an example of a doc string where you have the comment at the very top of a function when it starts. And so this is in restructured text format, and you can see that it's got the documentation, but it's also got these little triple angle brackets. This is not just documentation. This is actually tests. These are unit tests. And so if you use doc test, you can actually have Python go through and pull out the unit tests from your doc strings. So anything that you type in here, it's basically going to take this and run it right through the Python interpreter and make sure that this output is in there. So basically, you go into an interactive Python interpreter and you start testing your code and you run the function, and then you literally copy and paste this out right out of your interpreter, what you typed in and the response it gave. And you drop it right in here and it treats it as a test. And even the tracebacks and everything. So this is a super cool way of writing little unit tests in with the code and in with the documentation, and Sphinx can even hook into that. So I'm going to say no, but I just wanted to tell you about that. Intersphinx, link between Sphinx documentation for other projects? No, I'm going to say no there. To do, write to do entries? No, I'm going to say no there too. Coverage, check for documentation coverage? No, but that's nice to know. And we've got image math. Include math rendered as PNGs? No. Math jacks? No. All the defaults are no here, but it's cool to know that we can have these. If config, conditional inclusions of no, we're just going to always include the same stuff. View code, include links to the source code. I'm going to go with no because that's the default, but that's nice to know too. And GitHub pages, so you can create a .nojekyll file so that you can publish the same documentation that you're publishing to read the docs over to the GitHub pages. Now normally, GitHub pages will take Jekyll file. Well, okay, it takes Markdown files, and Jekyll is the Ruby tool that will actually parse your Markdown and generate a page for you. So you can have a GitHub repository where you put your Markdown files, and then GitHub will render, it'll parse them with Jekyll, which is similar to Sphinx, and then generate HTML and host it for you. That's cool. It's a similar option, but you're using Markdown. But if you don't want to use their Jekyll and you still want to use GitHub Pages, you can say no Jekyll, and then it'll just push whatever you render. So you can pre-compile all your HTML files, put them in there, and say, hey, GitHub Pages, serve this. Don't process it, just serve it as it is. Okay, and the last thing is a makefile. So a makefile and a Windows makefile, which is a make.bat, are going to be generated so that you can have one nice command, make HTML, and that will build the HTML version for us. So we want a makefile, yes. Create a Windows command file, yeah, why not? It's not going to hurt. Okay, so let's see. It created docs.confpy, index.rst, docs makefile, docs make.bat. Okay, so I'm going to finished. An initial directory structure has been created. You should now populate your master file, docs/index.rst, and create other documentation. Use the makefile to build the documents, like so, make builder, where builder is one of the supported builders, like HTML, LaTeX. So let's go into the docs, and let's say make HTML. And there it says the HTML pages are built in build/HTML. Now let's try PDF. No, it's not registered yet. We'd have to set that one up additionally. But let's try EPUB. No EPUB. What were the other ones it said? Link check. No, you can turn on PDF, but it's not on right now. So let's see here. Now that we've got our docs, what I'm going to do is open up Visual Studio Code. Now Visual Studio Code also has support for RestructuredText. So this is our Python project, and you can see it made the docs folder. So we ran Sphinx quick start. That's all we ran. If we look at our history here, we ran Sphinx quick start, docs, and pip install Sphinx. So install Sphinx, Sphinx quick start docs, and then you can make your HTML. But you don't have to make the HTML because Readthedocs will do it, but it's nice for seeing locally. So if we look in the make file, you can see all it's doing is calling Sphinx build, and on our directory. Nothing fancy. And the make.bat is doing the same thing. It's just calling Sphinx build, which I believe we could do ourselves if we just go into docs and say Sphinx build. And we can try Sphinx build, HTML, and then dot, and we can say output. No, that's probably why they have the make file, because it makes it all easy for you. You just type make HTML, and boom, HTML and build HTML. So let's actually look at what's in this this build folder. So let's say open containing folder. So it put it in build, and it built 3. Okay, it built EPUB. So here's the EPUB file. This is basically an ebook. And so this is the Ubuntu default ebook reader, and you can see this is just the default page it created for us. Let's close that, and then it's got the HTML one. And so here we go. We can open with Firefox, and you can see this one actually looks a lot more like the Flask documentation. So the default theme is, I think this is the theme. So Sphinx 1.8.5 built it, and Alabaster. Yeah, this is the theme. So it's really easy to swap out themes and customize themes. If you look back in here, they have the templates folder where we can it's empty, but we can override any templates we want to, and the static folder is empty too, but we could override it if we wanted to put things in there. There's the configuration.py. Let's see what's in there. Configuration file for the Sphinx documentation builder. And it's basically got, okay, the project name, author, version number, extensions. We're not using any special extensions. Template path, source suffix, Oh, it looks like you can even support multiple ones like RestructuredText and Markdown together. Master doc, index, HTML theme. Okay, so we could easily swap out the theme right there. Static path. Okay. Some pretty straightforward stuff. Oh yeah, you can do man page formats. That's another format you can target if you want to do like Linux utilities, command line utilities. You can do target man pages. I wonder. I don't think this one supports it. Does it? Oh, there it is. It does. Build man. Let's see. Build man. Yeah. So there's a man page. We could put that in our user share man, and then someone could do man chatty Cathy and pull it up in the terminal. Okay. I'm getting a little too sidetracked and excited just about the documentation tools. Let's get back to read the docs. So we did a Sphinx quick start, and now we have the docs folder that's got all of our stuff in there. And let's see, is the git ignore already ignoring? Oops. Is it already ignoring? Yes, it is. My git ignore, I forgot what generated it. I think PyCharm generated it or something, but it's smart enough. It was already Sphinx documentation being ignored. So docs/_build, it knows that that's a standard place for Sphinx docs, and it's already being ignored, so I'm good to go. Static templates, there's nothing there, but they should be included. And basically we still have our one index.rst. And this here's a comment. No module named doc8 found. Linter doc8 not installed. Let's go ahead and install it. That's probably some PEP8 documentation rules for the restructured text. Okay, it's probably still installing. So, yeah, they gave us a table of contents tree with a max depth of 2, with a label of contents, and then this is actually just, these are the links that we see here. And so, this reference should link to, yeah, see how it tries to link to different HTML pages? So, yeah, and that one doesn't exist, so let's try, for example, let's make a reference to inviting the bot. And then we're going to create a new HTML file, or a restructured text file rather, called invitingthebot.rst. This is going to be inviting chatty Cathy to your server. And you actually have a little freedom in the way you do your headers. I'm going to do it like that. And we'll say this will cover how to invite the existing chatbot to your own Discord server without having to run or host your own. Okay, so now that we have that new page, this TOC tree should automatically pick it up and list it, and this reference down here should be an explicit link to it. So just to make sure, let's do make HTML. Oh, there was an error in there. What was that? Checking consistency warning. Document isn't included in any TOC tree. Okay, I have to do one more step. Undefined label inviting the bot. Okay, I haven't done these links in a while, so let me pull up the documentation here. Or what I'll just do here is, oops, I want Django on GitHub. I want to check out their TOC really quick, so we can pull this up and just look at their index. Or rather, I guess it is their contents page. So TOC, oh, I guess you have to specify in your TOC tree here what you want. So in this case, this is going to be inviting the bot. And if it was in a sub-page, we could do something like pages / dividing the bot. And in fact, why don't we just do that for organization purposes? Okay, so now I'll remove that link actually. So let's make HTML. Let's see if it errored. No, it looked good that time, so let's come back here and refresh. And now we can see that we have the contents, and it's actually linking to the other page. And it even is dynamically pulling in the title from the other page. So if we were to, you know, that's a long title. We'll say, invite the chatbot to your server. It's about just as long, but whatever. We can see that if we go back here at the contents, then it updated in the sidebar, it updated over here. We automatically get the search. The search is totally free out of the box, and it's all done locally. So you can see here, you know, it's not running a server. It's not. There's no server backend. So this search is all happening locally, and you can see it even found the page to the invite, even highlighted the search. So the search works really good within the documentation. It's really fast too. So, and then you can go back home. So let me start by maybe taking the README and just putting that in the index page. And actually, what are these links? Do we want to keep those? Search page? Yeah, we'll leave the search page. Now that module index doesn't exist because we didn't let it. And actually, I want to try something now. So now that we did that one, I want to rebuild the docs. I want to generate the docs again. So I'm going to remove the doc folder, remove RF docs, and I'm going to do Sphinx quick start docs. But this time, it's a little too big probably. This time I'm going to say yes, do the auto module import, and do the doc string, auto pull in the doc string. So separate source and build, no. Name prefix, leave the same. Project name is Kathy Chatbot. Why don't we call it Kathy AI Discord Chatbot, just to be a little more clear. Author names, we'll do NanoDano. Project release is going to be 111. English, RST. Index is fine. Auto doc, yes. Yes, we want to automatically insert docstring from modules. Yes. Doc test, no, because I don't have the tests in the doc strings. Enter Sphinx, no. To do, no. Coverage, yes. I want to see I want to do a coverage check for documentation. Image math, no. Matjax, no. If config, no. View code, include links to the source code of the documented Python objects, yes, please. GitHub pages. Create a NoJekyll file. Sure, it won't hurt. Create a makefile, yes. Windows 1, yes. Now let's do make HTML. Oh, I need to go into the docs folder. Make HTML. Boom. Now we should have a totally fresh one in the same directory, so I'm going to refresh it. And now we see module index again, but I bet it's going to work. No, it still didn't work. Okay, so where did it put? Maybe I don't have any doc strings. Maybe that's why, honestly. Or maybe I need to configure it and tell it where to look for source code. So let's see, HTML sources. No, that's the build directory. Okay, well, it didn't quite do what I thought it was going to do, but it might be that I legit don't have any doc strings anywhere. So maybe that's why. Let's add some really quick. Kathy AI Discord chatbot. And we'll just say written in Python 3 using AML chat library. Okay, now down here we're going to say class that contains all of the bot logic. And actually, I want to open up PyCharm for this. PyCharm makes documenting much easier, and I'll show you why after we give it just a minute and a half to load up. It'll be going good. Okay, so now let's go back to our file here. Now watch, if I just do quote, 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 and I hit enter, it's gonna pop in all of the parameters for me. Initialize the bot using the Discord token, and channel name to chat in. And we'll say, only chats in this channel, no hashtag included. The bot token, full secret bot token. Okay, now that's going to be enough. So now I'm going to go back here into the terminal, and I'm going to try doing a make HTML. And now I'm going to pop this open again. Oh. Actually, I wonder if that's going to be enough, or if I actually have to do the whole Sphinx quick start again. So we'll just do Sphinx quick start docs. Now if this doesn't work, I'm going to just move on. I don't want to get too hung up on the auto document feature. Okay, separate, no, init prefix same. Okay, author name, version 111, English. Okay, now here's the magic. Automatically insert doc strings, yes. Doc test, no. Inner Sphinx, no. To do, no. Coverage checks, yes. Image map, no. Matchx, no. ifconfig, no. View code, yes. GitHub pages, go ahead. Yes, yes. Okay, now let's do make HTML. And now let's check it out again. No, so it didn't build the module index. I might have to configure and tell it where to look, but that's okay. I don't want to get hung up on that. I'm quickly just going to take the README file that I have, and I'm going to, let's see. I'll start just by dropping it down at the bottom here and making some space. So what do we have here? We've got the project title already. We can just give a brief description right there. And why don't we just call this one links? And then we'll just add a couple links. Let's say what the source code is going to be at here. And I'm probably going to delete this homepage later, but I'll leave it in for now, because the documentation is going to serve as the new homepage, basically. So I'm just going to leave a couple links here. Okay. Set up. Okay, now these are the ones that I want to separate out into separate pages. So I'm going to say new directory called pages, and inside that I'm going to create one called set up your own bot.rst. I know it's kind of a long name, but that's okay. So if you want to set up your own, that's mostly all of this. Set up and host your own bot. Let's be clear about that. Now there's another page that I want to create Now here I'm going to say pages slash, what is it called? Set up your own bot. And so I'm referencing the file name, but it will automatically put the title there. So I also want to create a new one, which is invite to your server.rst. And in the index, I'm going to duplicate that line with Control D. Then I'm going to say invite to your server. And this is going to be invite existing bot to your server. So you don't have to host your own, you can just invite it. And then we'll say follow this link to invite the bot. That's basically all there is to it. But I just wanted to show you how to make 2 pages, basically. And what I will want to do is pull the documentation from the project page. Yeah, so all of this, I'm going to create one just called Getting Started. Let me rename that to gettingstarted.rst. And that's going to be kind of the general information page. It's got a little bit of duplication, but I'll clean that up later. This isn't going to be too much about the actual documentation for this project. But now that we've got these pages going, we've got links to them, we got links here, and I'll just leave one more little piece of detail there. So now if I do make HTML and we check out what the HTML page looks like, now we can see, awesome, we've got our table of contents on the left, we've got our pages here, getting started. It's got all that info, set up and host your own bot. It's still in Markdown format, so I need to actually modify these. That's why they're all rendering as straight text. And then we've got, okay, so this is hopefully will be easier for people when they come and have questions about the bot. They'll be like, okay, look, here's the sections, and then here's the links. And I'll probably clean up these links too, but for now, this is going to be sufficient. So let's just say, let's check this out. Let's check out our Git status, how it's doing. Okay, so that got modified slightly because I added the doc strings. And then we added docs. Okay, everything's in the docs, so that's fine. So we'll say adding restructured text documentation with Sphinx. Okay. So I just pushed up that documentation to the GitHub repository. So now how do we take this documentation and get it over to Readthedocs? Now that was really the whole point of all this, right? Is to get it to live here automatically. And so if you've never seen Readthedocs, a good example would be Django All-Off has their page there. Oops. Yeah, so down at the bottom you see documentation, and it's Django All-Off.readthedocs.io. And you can see this is their default theme. This is the Readthedocs default theme, which is a little different than the Django theme, which is different from the Flask theme, which is different from this Alabaster one. Well, it was Alabaster. But this is their theme. So you get their theme for free out of the box. I think you can override it. I'm not sure. So if you look down here in the left, you got your sidebar, you got your search here. And you even get this link that says edit on GitHub, which is pretty cool. So you can go straight and say edit on GitHub, and it brings you right to the restructured text file in the docs directory. So let's say you're on here and you're looking at this page, you're going, oh, you know what, there's a little bug, or this little piece of information would really help. All you have to do is click edit on GitHub. Boom. Now you're on the page. You're literally on the edit page. And you can fork it. Yeah, see, we created a fork of this project for you. So basically what you'll do then is save your change, and it'll basically create a pull request. So very cool. It makes it very easy for people to contribute back as well. So that's another huge thing. And down here they have some featured projects, and you can view their docs. But if you click down in the bottom left, you'll notice that a little pop-up comes up. So there's the version, the latest. It tells you what version you're on. And in the left, you see the versions. That's based off of your branches, your tags, sorry. So you've got the different tags, and you can tag different versions so people can go back in history and see all the versions. And you can even download the different versions. So in PDF, it even generates the PDF with the proper hierarchy on the left. And so, it prints out nice PDF documentation. It's also got HTML, so you can download a zip of all the HTML docs. And you've got the EPUB reader, and it even links you to the downloads and to view it on GitHub and all that good stuff. Okay, so how do we hook up ours? We gotta go to Readthedocs and we gotta log in. I'm already logged in. I'm logged in with GitHub. And when you're logged in, you basically just say, my projects. You go to click your name. And it says, ready to share your documentation. You don't have any projects yet, but you can start building documentation by importing one. Not sure how to do it? Check out the Getting Started guide. But basically, all we have to do is say import a project. And then it lists all of our GitHub projects because I already logged in with GitHub, so it knows. But it doesn't list all of my Dev Dungeon ones. It only lists my personal ones. So I'm going to try this import manually. You can import your project manually if it isn't listed here or connected to one of your accounts. Yep, so we'll go import manually. And we're going to call this the Kathy Docs. Why don't we just call it that? And then we give it the repository URL, and so they have a Bitbucket example, but we have a GitHub URL, so we're just going to give it this GitHub path. Where is it? Here we go. Repository type, they support Git, Subversion, Mercurial, and Bazaar. We're going to go Git. And why don't we check out the advanced project options? So we'll click yes. Let's add a description, documentation for the Kathy AI Discord chatbot by nanodano at devdungeon.com. Sphinx documentation type. Okay, so it looks like you can do Sphinx or make docs with Markdown. It is Sphinx HTML, that's the default, that's what we're doing. Programming language. In this case, we can actually tell it that it's Python and give it any tags. Why don't we say Python AI, AML, Discord, bot, chatbot. Okay, and project homepage, it's going to be devdungeon.com / where is it? Content / Chatty Cathy. Okay, we'll go ahead and link that there and say finish. Now, let's see what happens. It should automatically, because I logged in with GitHub, it should have automatically set up a webhook. And so I'm actually curious if it set up a webhook. Now what it said it's doing is it's actually building now, so let me close some of these extra windows I've got open. Okay, so they said your documentation is building. You'll be able to view your documentation in a minute or two once your project is done building. It's actually going to GitHub and fetching the last one. And so the only version that I have available right now is latest. It looks like we can edit that. And that's okay. Oh, there we go. So now there's a stable. There's a latest and a stable. And there's the description we gave it. Now if we look on the right hand side, it's tied to our repository and we've got a project slug. So it's Kathy Docs. And last build, let me refresh this page now. Oh, now here we go. It says the project Kathy Docs doesn't have a valid webhook setup. Commits won't trigger new builds for this project. Okay. It looks like out of the box then, you have to come here and tell it when to build. And you have to say, hey, build, time to build, go ahead and build. But I'd much rather have it automatically build as soon as I commit without me ever having to think about it again. So I'm going to go in here to the project and I'm going to go to settings. And on the settings, there's a webhooks page. And here we're just going to say add a webhook. Oh, I need to give it my password. Let me see if I have that handy. Here it is. Okay, so now I'm logged in and we want to add the webhook, and we basically need to get the URL that it wants. Here we go. Your documentation has been built. Ensure your documentation is kept up to date with every commit by setting up a webhook. We're going to click it. Okay, webhook creation. Okay, go to here. Wait. Now where do I actually go to the settings, webhook add, yeah. For the payload URL, use the URL of the integrations on the Readdocs found on the project page. Oh, okay, so I have to go back to my project page. Here, okay, so this is my project page. And I've got the downloads for the PDF, the zip, EPUB. I've got my search. These are my builds, my versions. Okay, so under admin, awesome, we got all this good stuff. Advanced settings, versions, domains. Oh yeah, you can set up your own domain. You can set up your own custom www something and just redirect your DNS here, and they let you do that. They support that. You can add maintainers, you can add redirects, integrations, here we go. So add an integration, GitHub incoming webhook. Now this integration was created automatically from an existing webhook configured on your repository. Now, I should probably keep that secret, huh? Is that one I need to keep secret? Delete webhook. There we go. Let me, yeah, GitHub. Okay. Copy that. We just say post it there. Add webhook. Is that really... Okay. No recent activities, so let's actually try something then. Let's actually push a commit to cause a update. And what I want to do here is actually roll the version, and I want to add a long description, and that's going to be the README file contents. And that's going to be a function called def README file contents. We're going to say with open readme dot, that's still an MD file, but that's okay. Data equals f.read and then return data. Okay, so now what we're actually doing is the long description is what gets showed up if you go to PyPI. So let's do PyPI Kathy, yeah. So this is the project page for the chatbot, but as you can see, there is a link to the home page, but there's nothing here. There's no, it says the author has not provided a description, but you can see I did add a description, but that's only the short description. That's only this part right here. So you need a long description, and it renders Markdown, and it can be really long, so you can actually just feed it the same contents of your README, which is pretty good practice. And by using that function, it automatically does it all kind of automatically. So I'm going to roll the version, add the docs, and now I'm just going to push it up to PyPI. So let's say git status. Yeah, okay, so now all we did was update that. I'm going to say git commit roll version number. I'm going to push that, so it should go do the build the documentations. And while that's doing its webhook and building the documentation, what I'm going to do is python.setup.py sdist. Okay, so now we have our dist with our tar gz, and I'm going to push that up to PyPI and confirm that we're there. So now all I need to do is twine upload dist.kathy. Oh, I need to do pip install twine. Pip install twine. Twine is what lets you push up to the PyPI, so you can do things with pip. So I'm going to say twine twine upload, dist Kathy111. And it's going to ask me for my username. My username on PyPI is devdungeon. And my password is... Will that work? There we go. And boom, it's already done. Now, if you're uploading a project for the first time, you don't even have to register it or anything. You just try and push it. And if it's available, it'll register it. If not, it'll say, sorry, that name is in use. Give your project another name. So there's no pre-register step. But now if we go back to PyPI, we can see it rolled the version number to 111. And, oh, it didn't render the Markdown? That's weird. Yeah, it rendered some of it, you see? I bet it only supports the other Markdown format. The Markdown format that's more like RestructuredText. Actually, I bet they support RestructuredText better than they support Markdown, because it is the Python one. So whatever, you can do whatever there. But now you can see it's got the README file here. And actually, one thing I want to check up is setup.py attributes. I think there's a link for documentation. I may be wrong. Let me see. So we can jump right into the setup. And see. What was I looking for again? I already forgot. Oh well. Doesn't matter. But what I do want to do is actually update the README to link to our new page. Okay, so if we do this again, it should say, oh, it doesn't have any valid webhooks. Oh yeah, it does. Look, it just worked. 4 minutes ago. I'm confused now. Did it actually end up making its own? No. Okay, so this got a check. It looks like it's okay. This looks like it's building. Let's go view our docs. Here we go. Now, I guess we didn't really change anything, so we can't tell if it worked or not. Let's try making one quick change. Where is it? In our docs, in our index. Why don't we get rid of that mod index thing that doesn't exist anymore? Okay, so now we will do a git add, git status. Yeah, we'll do a git commit and say removing dead link from docs. Push. Alright, now it's pushing. Last built 3 minutes ago, so if we give it just a second and we wait. And so on the right, one thing I also wanted to show you is it gives you this badge, so you can put this badge in your README. And in this case, let's convert this to restructured text. Let's make our README restructured text. And in our README, now that everything is in the documentation, I want to do a link to the documentation, and I want to put that badge. We've got this nice little badge we can put on our GitHub README, and it's got some short URLs too, and I love this one's my favorite. The RTFD, the read the freaking docs. So that's the short link that I wanna put here. Okay, so we're gonna say read the documentation online at optionally build the documentation from the docs folder with make HTML. Be sure to, well, let's say, let's just do a code example. Say, go into the docs directory, make HTML, and I guess first we should say pip install Sphinx. There we go. The project homepage is going to be here. There is... I don't want to put all this stuff there now because now it's all in the documentation, and I'd rather just leave it all there. I don't even want to add that page anymore. Or the AML tutorial, because that's all in the docs. I really just want to point people to the docs, so let's just do that. And let's fix these so they are actually Markdown valid. And now in our PyCharm here, we can actually preview and make sure that it looks okay. And now it's not rendering the image. Now let's try. So it's not rendering the image, but I think that should work when we push it up to GitHub. Okay, so now let's say git commit. Oh no, I want to add one more thing. Link to the source code. Just in case even the docs aren't available, you need a link there. Okay, and we just say convert README to RST and link to the documentation. Now we'll push it up. Now I also want to do, I'm just going to roll the version number one more time so that we get the changes. Uh-oh. I guess I forgot to add it. We'll just say rolling version number. Okay, and then I'm going to rebuild it real quick and package it. So I'm going to say python setup.py sdist. Oh, yeah, I need to fix this now that it's a RST file. Fixing broken file link in setup.py, no problem. And then we will do python setup.py sdist, and then twine upload dist cathy12, and it's going to ask me one more time for my username and password. You can set that up in a config file. I think you can do twine login. Twine login. Yeah, it's register check upload. Now you can set it up in an environment file, so you don't have to enter your password every time. But that's okay. I don't mind doing it here. So we'll check here. Now that's really interesting. I could have swore that they actually did render stuff, but I guess they don't. Not on the PyPI. So let's go back here and make sure. Yeah, okay, awesome. Now we've got this beautiful badge. It says docs passing, and if we click it, it brings us right to the documentation. So you've got a link right there, and here we've got a link to our short URL, rtfd.io. And here we've got, now I'm going to need to clean it up a little bit, but there's all of that. So one thing I'm noticing is that it's built using the Alabaster theme, and that was a configuration in the configuration file. So I wonder if we leave that off, if it will start using the default one. So let's go back. You know, we never actually went through their quick start guide. So maybe now would be a good time to go through their quick start guide. Quick start, Sphinx quick start, make HTML using Markdown. Oh yeah, you can use Markdown with Sphinx. Pip install recommon mark, and then you say extensions common mark. But I highly recommend you just learn RestructuredText and do it. And it says warning: Markdown doesn't support a lot of features that Sphinx does, like inline markup and directives. However, it will work for basic prose content. RestructuredText is the preferred format for technical documentation. And just to give you a couple more examples on mine here, so the restructured text tutorial I have here, if you go to syntax examples, and so when you install Docutils, you also get single one-off. You can just do RST to HTML, and you can convert just a single file to HTML without using the larger Sphinx framework to generate the whole project. You can't just directly convert a single file. But there's a couple of things that you can't do in Markdown. For example, the table of contents that does the automatic linking. Comments, I guess you could do an HTML comment technically. In image, the image tags are much more intuitive than in Markdown, in my opinion. The lists are pretty intuitive. You can do tables, code blocks. There's a few different ways to do code blocks. Links, footnotes. You can add footnotes so that it automatically adds little references down to the bottom, automatically numbered ones. You can add lines like line breaks and tables. You can even do tables like this. And so the good thing is that you still got the plain text documentation. So if someone only has your source code, like if all I had was the source code and like I didn't even have access to anything, I had it all in my packages here, I could at least dig down into the docs directory and understand what's going on, because it's plain text at a certain level. So as long as you understand restructured text, you can make your way through the plain text documentation if you have to as a last resort. So let's go back here. Where was I? Want to go back to my. I was just showing you tables. Tables work. I want to go back to my Kathy one and see. Okay, so now we've got this beautiful little badge and a link here. And we can confirm, I guess if we go back in here, we could say overview. Now, it still says... There we go. Now that message seems to have gone away. So we can see the versions we have here. Last build 4 minutes ago passed, meaning our restructured text was all markup compliant and we didn't have any errors in it. We've got the badge, we've got our short link, and now we've got it hosted. So actually I wanted to use their theme. I really like their theme actually. I like it better than the Alabaster. So hold on, where's your quick start? How do I use getting started with make docs? No. Build process. Theme. Let me use your search. Let's search for theme. Theme. Here we go. I want to use the blue default Sphinx theme. I want to use the Readthedocs theme. Okay, we think that our theme is badass. And better than the default for many reasons. Some people don't like the change though. So there is a hack that will let you keep your default theme. If you set the HTML style variable in your comp.py, it should, okay. So it did, when we use Sphinx generate, it did set Alabaster as the default. But then I commented it out. So now it's disabled. And I'm going to say disabling explicit docs theme. Okay, so hopefully now it will use their default theme instead of overriding and using my Sphinx one. So if I need the docs, I'm going to go to my project page and I can click right on the docs badge. Oh, there, it's already done. That was so fast. Now look, I like this so much better. Now if you look in the bottom, we can see that we can even download our PDF versions, and it's got all of our stuff. We can even change what version. In my case, I've only got the latest and the stable. interesting. Where'd that stable one come from? Tags. Oh, I think I need tags instead of branches, that's why. That's fine, you can mess with your tags and add tags if you need special versions. You just add a tag to tag a commit. And there's their theme. Okay, so their theme is up on GitHub if you want to modify it or anything. I like these badges, they're really cool. There's a lot of badges you can do. Like that one that shows the license shields. Badges / shields, so like... Yeah, here's a whole bunch of ones. Like the PyPI one, you can add a PyPI badge and it'll tell you it'll tell you exactly what version of PyPI it is, and you can link to it. Let me see, how do I get a PyPI badge? Copy. Find on PyPI. And look at that. Boom, let's copy that badge URL. I'm just playing around now, honestly. So, let's see, do they have it in RST? They do! Awesome, they already have it in RestructuredText format for us. And yeah, so let's give this one an alt text too that just says Kathy on PyPI, Python package index. Okay. We'll say adding PyPI badge. Cool, so now if we go back to our Kathy project, we should see another badge. Alright, we've got, now it's starting to look like a real project. You've got a link to the docs, which actually has some real documentation now, even though it could do better. All I have to do if I want to fix the documentation is just click edit on GitHub, because you got this nice link in the top right. So anybody who wants to contribute, just come check it out, click edit on GitHub. It pops you right over to the edit page, and if you just click edit, it'll automatically fork and give you a place to start editing. And so yeah, now we also, if you click on the PyPI package, it automatically updates to the latest version, and you can click it, it brings you right there. So this is going to let me know, give us health signals. I guess when the build actually fails, it'll turn red. PyPI package 2 is green because it's at least a version 1. So that concludes our night of documentation. I hope you guys learned something. So that's a version badge. Yeah. Alright. Actually, I'm curious now if I leave off, since I left off the default theme, I wonder what theme it's actually going to default to. Is it going to default to the Alabaster again? Yeah, it did. Alabaster 07. Okay, I was just curious. That's when I built it locally. I built it locally, and so it's using the default theme from the conf.py. When I push it up to Readthedocs, because I didn't specify a theme, they're using their default theme, which is quite alright by me because I think this theme's actually better than the Alabaster one. I think it's cleaner, it's easier to see, the menu's more clear, searches up top. So, and you got these nice next buttons. So, awesome. So now we know how to set up documentation, get a badge, have it auto pull. Anytime we push a commit, it's going to update our documentation, how to split it up between different files, how RestructuredText works. And so once again, I really want to, and one thing I do want to emphasize too is that you don't have to use this RestructuredText just for Python documentation. You can use it for anything. Oh, we got some chat now. It's been an hour and 15 minutes and everyone was quiet. I thought they were going to sleep. Is My Hero says, always learn something from the streams. Yeah, I was hoping so, you know. This isn't something that's talked about a lot, Read the Docs is very popular. People see it a lot, but I don't think people realize how easy it is to use and how they should be using it. To be honest, they should be using it all the time, because the little one-page readmes usually aren't enough. But on top of that, I'm a huge fan of RestructuredText. So I really wanted to kind of promote that and share that, why I think it's better than Markdown, and why Read the Docs and RestructuredText is becoming a de facto documentation solution. And they even have a nice mobile responsiveness. So, yeah, Null Pixel says, never thought I'd watch a stream on documentation, but here I am. And I know the feeling. I mean, to be honest, I like documentation. I like technical writing. I like the challenge of trying to figure out the best flow to introduce someone to a topic and how to write it concisely, how to present code and diagrams and things in a way that makes sense. And if you guys don't already know, I did write a book called Security with Go on top of all my tutorials, so if it's not clear, I'm a big fan of technical writing. So get out there. Let's check this agenda. Is there anything I missed in the agenda? So yeah, if anybody just joined recently, I have this repository I created called devdungeon/RestructuredText documentation reference, and it's basically a tutorial all about restructured text, even diving into the class hierarchy for the writers, and how you've got the base writer, then you've got the HTML base writer, which is used to do the HTML one and the HTML4, and we use it to create our own custom HTML one, and how it visits the nodes, and all, you know, how to create a writer. This is a minimal one. How to create, yeah, so I dive pretty in depth on all of it, and how to create custom directives. So you can add custom functions and directives like this. So we saw the image one and the table of contents. So if there's something that is not satisfactory for you, you can extend it any way you want. And so, yeah, so there's a bunch of built-in ones. And here's more code and examples of how you actually create a directive. And so here's an example of my directive, and it shows you how to actually take the parameters and how you take it in and you do some processing and you spit out some text. And so they have a whole bunch of directives built in. Lots and lots of directives built in for like images. Yeah, so see, here's an example of an image with a bunch of parameters on it. And figures, all kinds of things, bodies, sidebars, line blocks, code, math. So you don't need a lot of this stuff. I don't use most of those, to be honest. I use it pretty much like Markdown. And so let me go back real quick to, yeah, the syntax examples. I'll jump up to the top. So syntax examples, if you just look at the sections, you'll see how I did it one with the top and one on the bottom. And here I did the single dotted, one on the top, one on the bottom, and then one on the bottom here instead of on top and bottom. You got a little flexibility there. They basically take whichever one you do first, and they treat that as the H1. So I could just as easily use a single underline with equals, but I chose to use the double, and then when it sees a second one, it goes, oh, that must be the second level one. And then as soon as you use a different one for a third one, then it treats that as the third one. So you can do it your own way. You don't have to use the top and the bottom. And if you just use the bottom one, then it looks a lot like Markdown. I mean, it looks just like Markdown. So you can do like my page title. And look, I'll do the syntax down at the bottom. I'll do restructured text. So now it does the syntax highlighting there. So this is going to be my heading. other heading, bullets, and links will automatically work. Then you can do, your image to whatever. And then at the top, the really nice one that I like, is one of my favorites, is just the contents. You can give it a name, say overview. And then you can even say, like depth 2. I think it's two colons? I forget. So that it only goes 2 depths instead of if you have a huge hierarchy. So yeah, it's just the directives that you learn that are about different, but otherwise, the bullets, the headings, you can pick it up and start using it without even doing anything different. You can just say, call it a .rst and start using it like this. Darkcoder says, hey! Welcome, Darkcoder, welcome back. And JJ Gamer says, what operating system are you using? I'm using Ubuntu in a virtual machine on Windows 10 Pro. Okay, so the agenda, we've done all of these. We are done, and we even finished our goal. So it looks like several people just joined, so I guess I'll do a real quick recap of what we did today. And basically, I walked through RestructuredText, which, in my opinion, is way better than Markdown. If you're still using Markdown, go learn RestructuredText, and if you want to learn it, come check out this repo I have on Dev Dungeon, which got a nice full tutorial. And basically, I showed how we can create a documentation using RestructuredText and send it over to Readthedocs. And have Readthedocs we have a badge now, and it links right over to Readthedocs, and it builds all our documentation automatically. As soon as we push code up here, it's going to build our documentation for us, so it's always in sync, and we can always get it, and we can get PDF version, HTML, the latest, specific, everything we need. You can go back and edit it quickly too, with links right back to GitHub. And so one thing, if you're paying real close attention, you might have noticed that GitHub tries to render the restructured text. So like the readme.rst is being rendered with headers and images, links, pre-formatted, all that good stuff. So GitHub understands restructured text just fine. It understands the directives. But if you go into the docs and you look at the index, it understands the H1, it understands the links, but look, it doesn't understand ref, and it doesn't understand this TOC tree. So the thing there that's happening is GitHub understands the base directives that restructured text comes with. Things like images, things like contents, but Sphinx, which is the tool that we're using, Sphinx is the tool that we're using to build our documentation project, which is built on top of the restructured text, but Sphinx adds a bunch of their own directives on top of it. And the reason is because when you're doing more complex documentation, you need more directives. For example, the table of contents, the .contents directive, is not enough because we're actually linking out to multiple pages. We've got several pages that we're linking off to that are in separate RST files. And so in order to manage that, they've created a directive called Table of Contents Tree that is basically just like the contents, except you link it to other files. And so what we get in the end through Sphinx is the nice, we actually get our table of contents that links off to other pages. So that's what we did. Again, I guess if I had to say what should you take away from this, it's that I think you should definitely give a shot to readthedocs.org and auto-hooking in your commits and auto-building your documentation. Even if you're not using Python, I recommend doing it. So that's it. Awesome. I had a great time. Thanks for coming out, everybody, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Go ahead and subscribe. Go to devdungeon.com, join the Discord, all that good stuff. See you guys tomorrow.